There we go.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool. And Jonathan, today we've got a special guest sitting in the green room, chilling out, getting ready for his set.
Yeah.
Looking all posh and professional down there in the green room. So, we're going to be talking about an interesting little topic here. You found this guy, so I'll kind of let you take it from there. And I'll let you do the bio and introduce him.
Yeah. So our guest today, he's going to be sharing how he's using AI to evangelize. Pretty cool. He's using AI
like a Jesus bot.
I guess so, man. I guess so. No, I thought it was cool. I kind of submitted a query this week and we got a ton of replies on how. I think the question I posed was, how are you using AI in your marketing, in a strategic, very intentional marketing strategy. I mean, something not just like I'm using it to do this or this, but an effective marketing plan.
Yeah.
Around AI. So I really liked his response because he's using it effectively with churches out there, and I think it's actually what he's doing is great because church attendance is down at an all-time low. I think post-COVID. And he can maybe share a little bit about, I don't know, maybe he knows the numbers on, what that's down, what percentage that's down, but I know it's down significantly. And he's out there helping churches. I know you've got a friend that we both know, Scott, who does a lot. Yeah, he's in the, I guess the preaching. Does he do preaching full time? He's part time, right? Or...
He does that as for his own ministry. Then he's part of one of the Southern Baptist conventions, one of the state levels. So
yeah,
I threw out a link, see if he'll have time to hop on. He may or may not. But why don't we bring on our guest? You've got the bio there.
Yeah. So William, our guest today is William Hamilton. He, and again, just to reemphasize, he's helping churches basically take their content using AI. And what I loved about this, I think the lesson is not just if you were in the ministry, but any organization, any industry can use this, or whatever niche or industry you're in, you can effectively utilize this to, repurpose your content using AI. So William is a Christian, deeply devoted and involved in digital marketing and the advent of AI technology. First and foremost, however, William is a Christian who desires the advance of the gospel. He's helped plant a church in 2024 in Wesley Chapel and leads worship there. Good for you, William. And he's studying theology and hopes to use his combined theology and technology efforts to build the kingdom. So awesome. Kudos to you, man. Welcome to the show, William.
Hey guys.
Wow. Did you upgrade the applause, Jonathan? Sounds like a new track.
No, the same one. It's kind of, it's always like I feel like it's always a really abrupt cutoff.
Yeah.
On the applause. It's like, I know.
Anyway, welcome, William.
Hey guys, excited to be here.
Yeah.
Man, you are totally comfortable. I see. I mean, you're sitting in this like very plush sofa.
I'm in my living room. I set it up. I set up in my living room today so I could be comfy. Got a nice comfy shirt on. So I'm actually barefoot right now too. It's just I'm all about that.
Just relaxing. Hey, I mean that's awesome. I love it. And I love what you're doing too. I think it's good. We can get into more. I mean, we'll get into more of your work, but I feel like
what's one surprising kind of interesting thing that people may not expect that you might let out of the bag today?
Well, probably that is the fact that churches, spend thousands of dollars and tons of time creating content every week, their sermon live stream, and usually about 4 to 40 people see it online. But leveraging social media, we can show that to thousands, if not millions of people. And we've seen that happen. And so that's definitely one of the things.
Oh, very cool. So really expanding the reach. and how to do that. Cool. All right, that sounds good. So I guess all your customers aren't Elevation Church or
No, no. We work in the kind of the I don't know 200 to 500 person church range.
okay, yeah, which is most of the churches for sure. Yeah, even though the mega churches get a lot of press, they it's still the majority are smaller for sure.
Yeah.
Well, this is our section, William, that we call Juvenile Beer Talk. I know you're not partaking at the moment because you're in the middle of 75 Hard, which is its own.
It's impressive.
Religion and commitment in itself.
It's something.
So what are you having today in place of anything?
I wanted to kind of still follow the spirit of something, so I did the sparkling grape juice.
I like it.
Comes in the wine bottles.
Yeah.
So
I like the commitment to the.
That's what I got you.
Yeah, I like it. I like the commitment there. So, well, Jonathan, what are you having over in Knoxville today?
I've got a, let me show you here real quick because I didn't pull it up. I've got a Wee Heavy. A Wee Heavy.
Wee Heavy is, that's a Scotch.
This is it's Einstock. This is we've had
we've had Einstock before, I know, but I don't know if we've had this one.
Nope, not this one. This is a new one. This is a, I don't even know if it's a, what is this? I just know that it looks like an ale. Let me hold this up.
Yeah. I would think it'd be a Scotch ale of some kind.
Yeah. So I was in a rush today, kind of picked this one up. So, it says here, surrender your taste buds to this Icelandic Wee Heavy. You're right. It's Scotch ale, is brewed with locally farmed and smoked barley and spiced with native Icelandic Angelica. With sweet notes of caramel and a touch of smokiness, our Wee Heavy remains incredibly balanced, rich, and hearty. Your taste buds will have no choice but to be conquered. And at 8%, I can see that happening, right? I mean, 8%. So.
Oh, you have no idea what's about to hit you right here.
It's good. It's pretty dark.
Let me bump you off.
You're going to one me up.
I am. Yeah, at least. So I went to HEB last night. So what part of the world are you in, William?
I'm in Tampa, Florida.
Tampa. Okay. That's where my daughter is. So we have a grocery store here at HEB. It's a Texas thing. You wouldn't understand. But anyway, I was going to the HEB last night. I was going through the beers and all the IPAs are out, right? Because we're running into spring, summer, like all the IPAs are out. I can't find a good stout, which is what I prefer, but I finally found one. But man, I might pay for it because it is a barrel-aged red velvet cake pastry stout with a 17.5% ABV. From Untitled Art, which we've had on the show several times. They got some of the cool cans where they let artists do their cans and then they feature the artist on their beer page, which is kind of cool. So the art from this can is from Ray and Smith. But yeah, this is this was released in February, so it's a Valentine's Day stout basically. And yeah, 17.
We've had those Untitled Art.
Yeah, we've had them before. Here's the kind of the can.
I think that's probably the highest percentage.
Yeah,
I think
this may be the new record holder for ABV on the episode.
William, it may just be us, buddy. We'll carry the show on.
I will be sipping cautiously for sure.
Okay, I love to talk. It's
So let's cheers it up, and then we'll give it a quick rating, and then we'll be off to the races, and I'll be off to somewhere.
Oops, premature there. There we go.
Oh wow!
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm really feeling it.
That sparkle, it's hidden, right? All right, so we usually rate these 1 to 5 pints. You can use decimal points, whatever you want. So what would you give that fine sparkling wine there on a scale of 1 to 5 pints, William?
I just love juice, so we're just going to give it a 5 out of 5.
I like it.
5 out of 5.
All right.
William, what's your background? What's your denomination?
So I was raised in the non-denominational restoration movement. The church plant that I helped plant just this year, we are part of the Southern Baptist Convention.
Cool.
Okay, I'm Presbyterian, so I can have many of these, or a few of these at least.
So what do you rate that, Jonathan?
I'm gonna give it a I'm gonna give a healthy 4.7.
Okay,
I was thinking 4.9, but I'll go 4.7. I don't want to be too generous.
It's pretty high.
Mine is really good. It's very sweet, as you would expect, but it's not like super. It's not like super high alcohol feel,
Yeah.
that you might expect. It tastes like a good liqueur. Definitely something you'd sip at dessert, which I guess makes sense. Red velvet pastry stout. So yeah, I'm gonna give it 4.5. It's really good, but yeah, it's not something you would drink more than one of because it's rich. It is super rich.
Yeah.
So 4.5.
4.5.
Yep.
Fantastic.
All right.
Excellent.
All right, I'll let you take it to from here.
Yeah, tell us about your background. How did you get started? I know you've been your background. Obviously you have a passion for the ministry. Tell us about starting this company. What is it? Church posting?
Yes. So our official LLC is Ministry Marketing because you can't have the name church registered in an LLC. So, but
Really?
our DBA is Church Posting, and that's the name we came up with back in November. But wait
a minute. I got to stop you there. You're not allowed to have church in
an LLC
in your LLC. That's interesting.
Wow.
My camera just moved up.
Yeah.
I'm like just half of me now, but yeah. So yeah, we found that out when I was trying to register, just because we finally registered the LLC. We hadn't been registered for a while when we were registering it. It was like, yeah, no, you can't do this. So I was like, well, what else is available? Ministry marketing, something basic. We'll just do a DBA. So that's how it ended up happening. So technically, I work for Ministry Marketing.
I see. Gotcha. That makes sense. It's kind of like I think the same thing applies to a lot like realtor or something like that. You can't use realtor marketing or something like that.
It's
realtor is trademarked. Yeah.
Yeah. So
they don't want you to be a for-profit business that's tricking people to thinking that you're a religious organization, right? And so you can't have that church in your name. So
gotcha.
It worked out though. It's all right. But yeah, so I in business back when I was in high school. I started doing wedding films for people, just filming weddings, and that graduated to corporate films for businesses, and that graduated to doing more just overall marketing. Right? They're like, hey, can you build this website? Can you drive traffic to the website? So it just kept on, doing more and more and more. And then at the advent of AI and the explosion, really, I guess. One of the things I started doing was offering to churches, hey, for $2 a minute, so you give me a 30-minute sermon, $60, I will create you a bunch of clips. And then I would go in and cut some clips and use AI to caption it, like using the captions software to automatically caption, and I would send it off. Well, my buddy just the last fall was like, hey, you should turn that into a business. And I was like, well, you want to help me with it? So we started creating this idea of church posting and figuring out how we could utilize APIs to speed up the process, automate it, and Zapier API access, all those different things to kind of make it faster and better. And so we launched that brand around then and started minorly advertising it, mostly me just showing up on a few podcasts like this, smaller podcasts, and telling people what we were doing, and then just asking my friends to be like, share this great tool with people. And so that's kind of the story leading up to it, and how I got into it was just another buddy of mine saying, hey, you're doing this already, let's turn this into a business. So
that's cool. So Jonathan, he just called our podcast small. It kind of hurt.
Well, you're not Joe Rogan. You're not Joe Rogan.
No, we're not. We're not. But we're getting there. We're on the way. Joe Rogan wasn't Joe Rogan at some point in his life.
That's right.
But I still remember him from Fear Factor. Fear is definitely not a factor for you.
Yeah, that's right. That's when he had hair.
Showing my age.
Back when he had hair.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mentioned like prior to the show that I think church attendance, like, and I don't know, you may know numbers, but like people that are actually attending to or actually going to church services has dropped pretty significantly. And I don't know, is that part of your, is that part of your mission? Is kind of create more engagement through content, get people, or are you just typically trying to meet people where they are, which I guess a lot of people have decided that, hey, I can see the sermon, or I can see it from my home. Are you just trying to meet people kind of where they are? Well, I'm not going out, I'm going to see something. And if they're going to do that, why not, market to them where they are?
Yeah, so ultimately there's a couple levels to why we're doing what we are doing, and then why it's effective, and then how churches can utilize it. It's not really like a one-trick pony, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But statistically, I don't know the exact number of church attendance now. I know that it dropped, obviously, to effectively zero, and it hasn't hit back to 100% for a lot of the smaller churches, like in that 200 to 500 person range, especially. One of the bigger problems for me when I look at the statistics is less of the sheer number of butts in the seats, and more the measure of discipleship within that. And so we look at the statistics, and you can see that like the Barna Group reports that 71% of all Christians don't have a biblical worldview. So that's a bigger thing to me. And so that's a catalyst to say, so maybe digital evangelism isn't the biggest need. Maybe it's digital discipleship. Uh, so with church posting and with kind of just utilizing social media for your church, it allows you to, number one, reach your church community on the off days more consistently, right? Everybody's on TikTok and Instagram
Right.
swiping. So you reach them with a reminder of a point that you made or whatever. But secondly, also, it does involve an evangelism, because if we had thousands of churches all putting out this much content, we'd be reaching a whole lot more people.
Yeah.
So there is an evangelism aspect to it, but for me, it's more, it is more, maybe not more, but there is a discipleship aspect to it as well that I think is vital to at least like why I'm passionate about it. But of course, then you do see the churches that have no views on anything, and now they're getting hundreds of thousands every month. So there's definitely evangelism to be had in it, but I feel the true value as far as like a kingdom building, as far as a Christian perspective, right, would be maybe the discipleship, right? The growth. So
it's interesting. I remember TD Jakes. That's his name, right? Yeah. There we go. TD Jakes. One time saying, yeah. Like, why could I not get that out? I remember him saying one time, if Jesus came back today, he thinks he'd be a filmmaker.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's like the medium of storytelling today. And he used so many parables and stories, that he would probably use some type of film. I'm curious, like, especially small churches. I don't want to put anybody down, but like, there's a charisma with large churches and their pastors. They're a little bit better, honestly, at their craft, right? Not always, but on the whole, I think. Are you doing anything to the videos? How do you? Because I think about some of the sermons I've been to, and they could be a little dry. There's always good points, right? But man, in a TikTok Reels age, how do you take that, what they're doing, and package it up for a society that's just like wants to be entertained and wants to be, just, if you don't get something in the first 2 seconds, they're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, that can be a real problem. That's all of our content, right? And from the get-go is using that short, right? It's short form, it's the big captions, and we select the best from the sermon. So it's not just a generic thing. It's maybe something slightly worldly, controversial, that would catch someone's attention. We do find that most of the videos that go semi-viral are the ones that say something about, someone's role or something that can be slightly taken by a lot of people that's kind of contentious, but it's
Right.
truth to the biblical truth. And so, like, that's a good point, right? That their presentation for these smaller churches, the presentation isn't as developed as some of those bigger churches. And so as we grow, church posting grows, one of our plans is to start putting out content to help those churches. We've already partnered with Church Front, which is a big YouTube channel that helps churches with their live stream and worship and things. And so we're definitely going to be pushing all of our subscribers to follow their guides and use them to improve their live stream content, so that our because honestly, most of the churches that we have, their live streams are bad, but ultimately the number one thing, people will watch a bad video if the audio is good, right?
Right. Yep.
But they won't watch a bad video if the audio is bad. Like if the video is perfect and the audio is bad, someone will swipe away. But if the audio is perfect and there's hardly any video, they'll still watch it.
Yep.
And so we will take all and we will help all, no matter what the content is. But we do see better results with the churches that have put a little bit more money into their live stream. The live streams have multiple camera angles. It's better quality. It's just more flexible at that point. And you're right. People have the shortest. There's like 6 seconds now or something like that. Like people don't have the time attention anymore. And so we have to do something that captures them right away. And normally that's being very selective about our content. And so we've already started putting together tons of resources for churches to train them on how to create that content the best as well. But ultimately it's up to the pastor who is going to be preaching, and we'll just pray that God uses them to spread his word.
So do you guys like layer in music, or I mean, obviously you do the captions, but do you ever layer in music to really amp up the kind of the emotional part of it?
So as of right now, so we do have a plan that's coming, that's going to be available in the future. That's more like what we're going to call it curated. It's more curated. It's more custom. It's more manual. Right now, our classic plan is effectively just, hey, you have a live stream. We're automatically going to find the live stream, cut it into 7 clips, and we're going to post it for you. So it really is for that church that doesn't have the capacity to do that themselves, whether that's time, volunteer, monetary wise to hire.
Right.
But yeah, on our classic plan right now, there is no music, unless they just have someone playing piano already under it. So
Yeah.
it's captions and it's bite-sized clips, 15 to 60 seconds of the most viral worthy content there. And honestly, we're still getting tens of thousands, 20,000, 50,000 views in a month for a church that was getting 100, 200, 300 before.
That's amazing.
So it's not, I'm not sure it's the biggest need. Now, when we get into that curated plan, those will be things where we'll have the cover image, we'll have music, we'll be even more intentional with it. But of course, that comes with a higher price tag. Whereas right now in our early access, we're able to offer it for $97 a month, which is effectively nothing, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you want to pay us $1,000, then that's a whole different.
Yeah. I mean, that's $97 a month. That's cheaper than pizza for the intern, right? That's pretty good. So
exactly.
What do you?
How
you
are you
started
able?
This? Go ahead, John. Yeah, sorry, John.
No, I was going to say. So how? I'm curious. With AI, what are you highlighting? I guess some of the most prominent points of a typical sermon or on any given Sunday that and basically dicing that up and then putting that out there to different platforms to get engagement. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is, and I'll walk you through the exact process of each step of what our system does and how it works, and our team, because we do have a team that works behind the scenes for every piece of content. But I mean, the goal is to, of course, help a church have more eyes on their stuff. But again, it's to put out good content, to fill the world with good content when we have a world that's full of bad content.
Yeah.
But the way the system works, which I think you guys will be interested in, is we have an automation set. So once the sermon is submitted, we put that into our system, and that's put down. will automatically grab that link every week when the live stream is updated. Now, some churches have like multiple services on a Sunday, so we'll have to go in manually select the right service in that situation, which adds a little bit of manual work. But then it creates a transcription of the sermon, and then we use OpenAI to automatically, with our custom prompt, right, that is trained to recognize the most viral moments, the complete thoughts, those types of things, and basically set parameters for that. That is then auto cut and auto captioned through API access for a couple different softwares, and then we go in. We have a manual person goes in and reviews the content from start to finish, selects the best 7 clips, downloads them into a CSV file basically, and puts them through our poster. So it takes about 20 minutes per client probably at this point. Eventually, I hope to figure out a way that's a lot faster than that, even maybe allow like someone to go in and create their own content by uploading, because right now it's all behind the scenes. They just submit and they don't see anything until it's ready to be posted.
So, I see.
Which is what everybody wants, right? They just want to submit it and let you take care of all the stuff.
That's what I found with churches, is like, especially with the churches we're targeting, which there's about 40,000 that are kind of in that demographic that we'll be able to reach. It's that they don't have, not only do they not have the budget to hire a social media manager, they don't have the time, the volunteer reliability. They probably have 3 to 5 staff members, and they're all overworked. The worship guy is probably supposed to do social media, but he hasn't posted for 2 months, right? And so, like, our plan and what we do is not good for every church, and it's not good for the churches that do have those resources to do it on their own, right? Like, it is not totally custom, where the way that everything is perfectly made for your church, you know. It is a bit of an automated process, and so when that comes into it, it's not the most custom perfect. I mean, you're not spending $100 and getting $2,000 worth of work. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. But we like to think you're spending $100 and getting $800, $900 worth of work, and just like, hey, you didn't have anything, and now you have good content that's consistently being put out, and people are consistently engaging with it. Which one would you rather choose? And most churches at that point are willing to spend the $97 for at least having some engagement, right?
Yeah, right.
So what's been your most viral clip from both from like a content standpoint and from like numbers standpoint? Like, give us an idea of like what's kind of gone viral, and then I'd love to, like, how did that change that church's, that's maybe the staff or the pastor, whoever, like, change their worldview of like what's possible and stuff?
Sure. Well, I can't speak to a specific one that's gone like 7 million or whatever, anything like that. But I can speak to a story that just that question kind of reminded me. It's not maybe a perfect answer, but it reminded me of this story that I think is good. We had a pastor, and one of the clips was talking about Catholicism, and it was by a Protestant pastor, and he I don't know exactly what he said in it, but it was something that wasn't the most affable. It was a slightly controversial take about stuff, and I think it got 50,000-60,000 views, engaged with tons of people commenting, tons of mad people, tons of happy people, whatever. But one of the best thing that happened out of it, and he told me this story, he called me up. He was actually our first client too. And this is why I remember the story so well. And his name is Steve. And he said that an old friend that he hadn't seen for like 10 years, who was a Catholic, messaged him because of that video, because it's slightly controversial.
Wow.
And they ended up going out and having lunch and reconnecting after 10 years. And he was able to, share the good news of the gospel and talk through, because this was a nominal Catholic, not like a guy that was actually a devoted Catholic, guy that probably went to church once a year or so. And he saw the video, engaged with it, and Steve was able to invite him to come to church, and he went to church with him, and so that's like a tangible story that I love, because sure, 50,000 people or whatever saw it online, and maybe some people were mad. Some people were like, "Oh yeah, that's it," and maybe they got 1,000 more followers. I don't know what it was, but ultimately, one more person connected with the pastor who was able
Right.
to to engage with him on a personal level, and I think that happens a lot. I think um, because what it does, even when you can't track it to that degree, it's creating little inception of ideas in people's heads to start the conversation with that pastor, that person, or whatever. So we say something that's a new point or a controversial take or whatever it is, um, and I'm through it on TikTok, and I see something. The next time I have a conversation with, I don't know, so and so, it's kind of in the back of my head, and so when something related is brought up, I'm able to have that conversation. Now it's like putting it into people's brains and creating that. So that's one of my favorite stories for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Inception is my favorite marketing movie. People don't think it's a marketing movie, but it is.
I just
Sure.
watched it the other night, so it's
Yeah.
in my head.
Yeah, I've got to watch that again because it's definitely one of my favorite marketing movies. Yeah, that's really cool because I mean, it's kind of like what social media was kind of intended for, right? Is to connect with people maybe from your past and kind of to rekindle some of that, or to keep current relationships alive longer, especially with how transient we are. So I can definitely see how that might happen where, a pastor or a church that somebody knows about, maybe they kind of follow not because they're a pastor or whatever, just because they're friends. And then that message starts getting in front of them, when you can't have coffee with them, once a month or whatever. It's a way to just kind of stay in front of them.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
What platforms? I mean, are you guys putting these out to all of the like the most widely used social media platforms? I mean, your TikToks and Instagram and
Yeah, so when we launched, we were going to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Okay.
We've switched. We since have we've switched our provider for the delivery method, and so YouTube is actually not available right now. It's coming soon in the next couple weeks. But yeah, those are the main four platforms. We also like all of our clients when they purchase, they get logged into a dashboard where they connect in all their socials. And what's interesting about that is we actually give them access to a calendar posting tool. So if they wanted to use it for their church's Google business page or their church's Twitter page or their church's
Right.
LinkedIn or whatever, they can use that for those. 'Cause it actually has all the platforms. YouTube's the only one we don't have right now that is coming very soon. And so yeah, actually YouTube's like probably my favorite platform because of how many people that we reach. That's my favorite statistic platform because it almost always is the biggest one, which with the next being Facebook. But right now, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, with YouTube coming soon. So
What's
cool.
your thoughts on the whole TikTok being bought, sold, whatever? Like, yeah, you have an opinion on that, or you're just kind of moving forward? Whatever
You
happens,
know,
happens.
right now we're just moving forward. Whatever happens, I don't think it's going to train wreck us. Either way, it's going to train wreck a lot of influencers, but it's not really going to change anything with the churches or with us because if it does get banned, which I am not sure it really is going to,
somebody's going to buy it. Somebody's going to buy it in the States.
I think so too, but
Yeah.
but if that doesn't happen, which I agree that I don't think it will happen, but if it does get banned, and the unlikelihood it does, everybody's going to go somewhere, and they're going to go to one of those three platforms I just named, and all of
yeah,
our churches are going to be on there. We're going to
Yeah.
be operating on there already, so I'm like, I couldn't be less worried. But I do think TikTok's going to be around for the long term, personally.
Yeah.
yeah. I think a lot of people are saying like really make sure your YouTube is because if it does happen, then YouTube is
Yeah.
probably the next place that people would go
Mhm.
to.
Yeah.
Which I could see. I mean, it's a totally different feel though, right? Although YouTube Shorts is, I guess, similar, but TikTok's got its own feel. It's much more feel like Instagram, I guess, just because the quickness of it compared to YouTube. But
Yeah, and the
yeah,
algorithms are distinct on every one.
yeah,
They're very distinct on every single every single one. They don't act the same. And that would make sense because they're all different companies. And that's right now the company that owns TikTok. I can't remember what they're called. That's what they're trying to do, is trying to sell TikTok without the underlying algorithm. And nobody wants to buy that.
No,
right. Yeah.
Now the opposite, you probably get twice the money for, but like everybody wants the algorithm. They don't want that. Although somebody will buy it just for the user base. So, so I love this thing on your website. It says your church's largest untapped resources are your Sunday messages. You make hours of valuable content every month. Invested thousands in AV systems, but almost nobody watches. I mean, I love that you're taking something that people are already doing.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like you're making them do something.
Right. You're not putting something else on their to-do list. You're taking something they're already doing. So I'm curious, like what other types of businesses do you think? I mean, you're an entrepreneurial guy. Like what other types of businesses could use a similar process?
I mean,
so they don't have to add something else to their plate.
That's interesting because we've thought a lot about, okay, how could we early on? So when me and my co-founder first started it, he no longer works with us, but we were talking about like, who could we take this to? Because we both came from the video world. Could we take this to videographers? Where could we build another brand around this idea and do it? With church posting, actually, right now we're also open to Christian podcasts. So that's another one that we allow because they're already creating that long form content. But yeah, I mean, it's what businesses are actually consistently creating long form content, and other than podcasts, there's not a lot. So like with the videographers, there certainly would be an industry for like an opportunity for us to build a platform and sell it to videographers for their clients that they produce podcasts for. So that would be a niche that I would find interesting. But outside of that, it's like what industry is consistently creating long form content, not just because like real estate, they create lots of content, but it's not long form content. There would be no way to utilize a system like this.
Right.
And so, I mean, YouTubers and podcasters and maybe videographers would be probably the only kind of but those videographers are the ones working with the podcasters and YouTubers.
Yeah.
So there's not, to me, I mean, I haven't done extensive research on it because we've been kind of hyper focused on this. Again, the best companies succeed when they focus on a niche, solve a specific problem for a specific person. And so that's what we've been hyper focused on, is one problem, one solution. But it has been interesting. We have thought every once in a while, like, where else could this possibly thrive? And I don't have an answer for that, really.
Yeah. Well, I can think of a ton of industries what you're doing would be successful in, companies that are already, or you said podcasters, people that are already doing industry podcasts. To me, what you're doing, it fits well because you're meeting them. Like I said before, you're meeting people where they are with, exactly where they already are. They're already creating content on a weekly basis. Some of these churches, and they're uploading it. They got the videos, they're putting it out there. They got their podcast, but typically, if it's a sermon, it's 45 minutes to an hour. Right. So, people, unfortunately, we live in a time where people don't want to sit down and listen and, or watch a 45-minute sermon, or they don't have time to, for whatever reason. So I love what you're doing is taking the high points of that, and dicing that up and putting that out there, so that they can effectively, get those moments or those, critical points within that sermon or message.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Website.
Yeah. That's our goal is to just make it accessible for the churches. So
I can certainly see like there are some like smaller niche stuff. So it's not as clear cut as like a church. But I know, a lot of coaches, they're doing consistent, Q&A content on their Facebooks, and that's the only place it ever goes, really. It doesn't, and it never gets cut up. It's just long form content because they don't have the staff or the team, solopreneur coaches type person. So yeah, I could see, somebody look at what you do, even if you don't, service it. But there's some clues here. The old saying, "Success leaves clues."
Yeah.
Like there's some clues here about what you're doing and how you're doing it that I think a lot of our listeners could take. Um, and Jonathan, like I could see, a world, and Scott wasn't able to join us, but I know he does. He does a lot of video stuff where he's at, but I could see like companies that have white papers,
Yes.
put a little studio in their room, and actually present the white paper,
Mm-hmm.
and then turn that into clips and stuff like that as another tool. So there's a lot of cool things you could do when you understand kind of the mechanism behind this. That's a little bit different because they're not already doing it. But I think one reason people don't do stuff, William, is that they're not sure what's the point of doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to do all these other things, right? Or they don't know how to make it do all the other things.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you tell people, look, if you just do this, I can make it do 16 other things.
Right.
Then all of a sudden the cost of time and energy is worth it.
Right.
So
what I'm curious, what is the reception that you typically get from a lot of, obviously you've had success, but what is the response that you get from churches out there? Are they, are they willing to?
How are you finding your people, and what are they saying? Are they like, oh, this internet's a fad or anything like that? Or like,
we're just fine.
Yeah. No,
we don't need to use AI.
And I guess one point to that is we don't really market AI.
Yeah. Right.
We just tell them.
Yeah. You don't want to showcase what you're doing. You're just providing the service, right? I mean,
and I think part of that is we believe AI is a tool that God can use to build his kingdom, but we also know that AI is a tool that Satan can use to do a lot of negativity, and there already has been. And so just as a general rule, we don't just outright advertise AI everywhere because we know churches are wary of that.
Some of them are like, oh gosh, here we go with AI.
But overall, especially with the ones that I actually talk to, usually those guys are the ones that have more questions, that are more excited about the inner workings. They're usually excited about the AI whole thing. But overall, the response usually is, how are you doing it for so cheap? It's almost too good to be true. And we are like, this is early access pricing. So I will make this point. If you go on the website right now, it actually says $147. So it is early access price available. We are actually launching a big advertising campaign with a YouTube channel Tuesday. So and we only have 100 more spots at that $97 price range before we go up. Help with our capacity. We're a small family-owned team, or a family-owned company, small team. And so we're kind of capping over at 100. At that point, we'll reevaluate, hire the people we need to hire, and then move on again with a higher price. So this is not our final price, right? But it is kind of at this point, it's been charged as like, it's a little too good to be true, as kind of the response. And I usually affirm that. Yes, it is, because we have to think in context that this is not the end all be all of all social media. You still have events that are happening that you need to make posts for. Like you still, there's still you still need to take pictures of your people.
Entry level. Right?
This is entry level, so we can start engaging people, and you can grow from there. We'll help, let's grow your church a little bit. Get another volunteer. They can take pictures, or whatever. It should not be a replacement of anything that you're already doing. It shouldn't be a standalone. If you can afford other things, a volunteer to take a picture and make a post about the upcoming event or a recap or whatever. Like, those are important things that I still want to encourage churches to do. But overall, the response is really good. I think we've only lost one client, and they told us, we're just reevaluating our online strategy right now, and we're going to come back once we're doing a live stream again. So, so most churches are pretty pleased so far.
So you're not looking to put every pastor in his basement on a green screen and no congregation, just clips out to the world. That's not the mission, huh?
No, we want a congregation that's more engaged, right? I said that
Right.
stat early on. Like the Barna Group reports, something like 71% of Christians don't have a biblical worldview, and so I'd rather that be 0%. And so as the pastors can engage with their congregation throughout the week, perhaps that makes them more excited to come on a Sunday morning because they saw a video on Saturday night. It said something that kind of was like, "What?" I got to talk to them in the morning. Well, now they're engaged on that Sunday morning, and maybe they actually know who Jesus is now. And
Yeah.
so those are the things that I find valuable personally.
Have you ever unintentionally got someone like banned from a platform? I mean, just like through
Nope.
posting some of the. Okay, just curious.
Nope. We have 100% good right now. Don't jinx us though. So.
Well, yeah.
I was wondering earlier, like how do they approve all the clips, or do you kind of have license?
So
to do
there
that?
is the option, like, so again, on our platform, it's very easy to go in and approve and deny posts. And
Yeah.
it's very easy to do. Basically on the onboarding form, they're able to check a box whether they want approval or not. We kind of push them to not, because when they do, they forget and then they don't approve the post and the posts don't go
Right.
out and then they're mad about it. But because it's like, this is your sermon, you are preaching this and you're already putting it out on YouTube for everybody to see. So if you don't
Right.
want that content, maybe don't say those things.
Yeah.
But we do have the option to approve, because we realize that's important to churches. And also some churches don't want as much content as we will create and push. And so those churches, like my advice is, hey, if you don't want 7 posts, we'll still make them for you and we'll still
Mhm.
schedule them out for you. But then you can go in every Monday and look at the posts that have been scheduled out and say, okay, I
Right.
want one on Wednesday and Friday. And you can watch all the, like that. That's totally acceptable. Some churches, especially churches that are already doing other posts too, maybe they don't want 7 posts every single
Do
week.
you
So.
do you have any conversations with these people and say, you really need to be controversial because that's what's going to get clicks,
I mean, if someone is asking me how they can get more views, I might mention that to them with the caveat that tell the truth. Don't just be
Yeah.
controversial to be controversial.
Yeah, you might want to
But
talk about those Catholics out there.
it's
That's
not,
gonna
and
get
the thing is, I use that word controversial and it kind of has that bad connotation
Yeah,
because it means,
right.
oh, they're saying something bad. But what I really mean is they're saying biblical truth that the world doesn't like.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And so,
Just say it like it is, man. Just say it like
right.
it is. I mean, obviously there's some platforms, and like we just started live streaming on Rumble last week, which is a platform that's for uncensored I guess if you don't want to get censored, like if you don't want to get any of your content like maybe shut down on YouTube, which can possibly happen. I don't think we've had that problem anytime recently, but yeah, I mean that's a platform where it's kind of like it's like the wild wild west. So we'll see how long that lasts, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I would think
with
that the
Rumble,
engagement that you're creating is like you mentioned earlier about the pastor that obviously he said something that was controversial, but it got a lot of engagement and led to a connection from longtime friends. So I mean, sometimes controversy actually is pretty good.
Well, I mean, we think that Jesus said a lot of controversial things
That's
that
right.
got him
Absolutely.
killed. It had a lot of angry
He
people
didn't
and he
hold
did
back.
wrong. And so I think as long as we are saying biblical truth,
Yeah.
the whatever, we're just saying what is in the Bible.
That's
Churches
right.
shouldn't be scared to put that content out, and they shouldn't be scared at the vitriol that is received, because what does the Bible says? It actually says, the world will hate you because it hated me first.
That's right.
And so like that's an expectation we should have as a church. And we shouldn't look at that actually as a negative thing. I think when we get that much engagement, 50,000 views, hundreds of negative comments about it, what we know is that
Yeah.
we are reaching some people. But there's always going to be less positive comments than there are negative. It's just inherent to the world we live in. I mean, I got a good friend named Owen. He's an influencer, big on TikTok. You go through he's big. People love him. I mean, he's a girl magnet, but if you look at his comments, you would think everybody hates him, but somehow he still gets millions of views constantly, whatever. So it's like, okay, people love him. It's just the people that love him are commenting less than the people that hate him, you
Yeah,
know?
pretty
And that's
much.
just because we live in a very hateful world, and
Oh yeah.
and the Bible tells us that's going to happen. So churches should be brave. They should say the truth, and then they should put it out there so that people can consume it, so that the people that God is drawing, that they see that and they recognize that, and then they'll come to Christ through those messages. I think that's very important, and I truly believe that.
All right. So, William, I got a new tagline for you: "Spread the truth that gets you killed."
Absolutely.
Probably not the best tagline. We'll shelve that for
Well,
another
think
time.
about it. I'll use that when advertising to Presbyterian churches, and then
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Nice. Full circle moment there. Well done. Well done. Well played. Before we let you tell people where to find you, did you see the Apple ad that came out last week
Oh yeah.
about
don't think so.
where it crushed all the like musical instruments and all this
Missed
stuff?
that one.
Oh, it was a big controversy. I was going to ask you to comment on it, but now you don't know about it. So, but it was interesting because this week,
we talked about it last week.
Yeah,
William.
It's interesting though, because this week Samsung did a counter ad.
Yeah.
Where they were like, you can't crush creativity. And they showed somebody picking up an old guitar and playing it instead of crushing it, which was really, really well done. So, but that ad is a good example of like, controversy getting reach.
Yes.
The Apple ad, like people hated it and everybody was talking about it and they got millions and millions and millions of views. I mean, Tim Cook's, X account alone got like 60 or 70 million views. So, for that post. So it's pretty wild. So yeah, don't be afraid of controversy. Jesus wasn't,
he had some really choice words for,
like you said though, William, as long as it's truth and you don't want to, not controversy for controversy's sake. That's a different topic.
Yeah.
So,
stand for what you believe. I love it. It's perfect.
So William, where can people find out about you and what you do? And, yeah,
sure. Yeah. I mean, the main place right now is churchposting.com. We have a blog there, a ton of resources. We're creating a YouTube channel right now, and there will be content. I've recorded my first couple of videos to help churches understand social media and those types of things. You can find me personally on LinkedIn. Just look at my name, Will Hamilton, Church Posting. I'll be there. But
you got some good stuff on there.
We post a blog. We just started doing this. We post a blog every business day, and that's going to keep on going for a while. So over the next few months, there should be plenty of content for churches. But feel free to visit churchposting.com and check us out. Again, like I said, if you go to pricing right now, it'll actually have a higher price. So any of your viewers, they should send us a message, and I'll give them the special deal. As for our first 100, of course. But yeah, if anybody wants that $97 a month, they should reach out to us, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so I got so my curiosity, last question before we wrap up, because I'm kind of a tech geek sometimes, not all the time, but what do you recommend for? I saw your post on there for video camera stuff for churches. What are you recommending?
Well, I mean, it just depends on the church and what the goals are. Like if there's an unlimited budget, there's this cool new PTZ camera from Sony that's just like a Sony cinema camera and a PTZ body, like $10,000. I'd get a bunch of those, but that's a little high end. What's great about the PTZ cameras is, again, they can be automatically used, but usually their image sensor quality is less. Right now, I have this. This is a old Canon R6 that came out five years ago or so, and it's great. I think there's a lot of cameras that you can use, and it's really more down to if your lighting's good and you have the right angles and it's going into the right software to control it. So I don't know if we're talking about just social media camera for pictures and whatever, I'd just get a good cheap mirrorless camera from Sony probably.
Yeah. Cool. Just old Sony DSLR, right?
Well, I like the mirrorless, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I love this when
No
you
mirrors.
get into tech stuff. Like it goes right over my head. I'm like, I don't know, man. Give me my
Well,
iPhone.
I got my start right in videography, wedding videography. So I know way too much about the cameras.
Yeah,
Well,
my dad was.
I've been testing some webcams lately, and just because my onboard camera is not to the, not to the, I guess not to the performance level that I want.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, nothing that I test is actually all that great.
No,
So
all webcams suck. So you need to you can get like an M50, a Canon M50 for like $200 off of eBay. You can
okay,
connect it with a USB stick, mount it up right over that's what I would do. Like I
Yeah.
actually have a teleprompter that I have so I can look right at my camera, but you can just put the M50 just right above the camera too. M50 you get it cheap. It looks beautiful. That'd be what I recommend. Don't do any sort of all the webcams suck. There's not a good one. So.
They're terrible. They're awful.
But yeah, you can get
they
look
like,
this.
yeah, they advertise like, oh, this is great. This is great for doing web conferencing and videos, and it's perfect for low lighting. And then you get it in, and it looks like my onboard camera looks better than this. So
I mean, you think about your webcam. It's it's what, maybe a millimeter or two across as far as like apertures. Like you can't get a lot of light in there. You can't, like, all the basics of what a camera does.
Yeah,
like there's just not room in there for that. When you're putting it inside of an iPad or a laptop or anything else, there's just not room to do all the things it needs to do. So, I don't worry too much about that. But would you say M50? Like, what's the?
Yeah, I mean that was just one off the top of my head. Would be a cheap one that you could get used. It would be really affordable, but would still be good. It's mirrorless. It works with Canon. Canon has a free software called EOS Webcam Utility that works on both Mac and PC. And so you just plug in the USB, open that software, and then select that as your camera. It'd be really easy to do that. That'd be my recommendation for most affordable option, and it would look pretty good. And honestly, if I'm just using it for a camcorder, I probably wouldn't buy a nicer one.
Yeah,
than that, because honestly, the image on those things are great. So I wouldn't buy something like this that I'm using.
Yeah. So. Well, obviously,
like you said earlier, if you've got really good audio, that's the main thing, right?
Yeah. Of the three of us, I've got the best lighting. I mean,
you've got the best lighting, Sean, for sure.
So, anyway,
because it just accentuates that
chrome
enormous pencil in the background.
Yes, exactly.
Number 2.
I don't know which way it is. StreamYard's backwards on all the video. All right. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah, William. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. So it's great.
So we're gonna send you to the green room, where you're gonna sit tightly for like 30 seconds as Sean and I wrap up this episode.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool nice little niche business there,
That's right.
Serving churches at, what do you say, 40,000 churches fit that demographic. He's got a ways to go to serve all those people. So
yeah, that's a huge need, I think.
All the marketers out there, they're like 40,000 times
we just gave them
$97. They're all doing the math in their head, trying to figure out how much that's worth. Might have gave you some competition, William. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I know. I was like, "Wow, man, they're giving that away." So we're gonna add a few digits onto that price.
Yeah,
that's okay, William. It's always the first. You're the first, man. What is it? The first to be there. People are.
His heart's in the right place, and that's what I like.
Right. Exactly.
That'll outperform any
Church
other metrics for sure.
Exactly.
So
good stuff. I love it. And here's the lesson. The takeaway lesson is, I feel like, and that's why we had him on, is like, regardless of, whether you're in the ministry, I don't care what industry you're in. I mean, I think about this for my industry, because I do a lot of podcasts in my composites industry. We do this podcast on a weekly basis.
Yep.
And we've been just saying for years, we need to chop these episodes up and just like highlight the, accentuate the high points of of these episodes, which one of these days we're going to do. I feel it coming eventually.
We're just waiting for AI to catch up.
That's right. I mean, and I think Joe Rogan, he's got a great podcast. I mean, obviously he's known, but it's also a very lengthy podcast. I mean, what is it, like an hour and a half?
Oh man,
and
3 hours typically. Most of his stuff now is 3 hours.
And so I never watch a full episode, but I do find myself watching some of the clips. I get, obviously the analytics when you start, whether it's Reels or, or TikTok, once you start watching something, you get it fed to you constantly. So I think on Instagram Reels, I see some of his clips, pop up just because I've watched them in the past. Yep. And that's really the only way I find them.
And that's the thing though, like this was very labor intensive a year ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now with some of these AI tools, it is a little bit more manageable with, a VA, a service like what William's offering. Like there are tools out there now that you need to revisit, and we need to revisit because it's changed so much since we started this podcast. Like, it would have just taken way too much time and energy investment for what we do on this podcast, because this is basically what we do for fun and our own entertainment. So but now that the tools are getting so effective and so cost effective, it's worth looking into again for sure. So we've got a good guest coming up next week, right?
Yeah. So this is 354, episode 354. Next week we have a guest talking about she's the author of a new book entitled "You Have More Influence Than You Think," and I'm excited about having her on. She's I've actually been reading her book the last week and a half, and it's very good. Sean, I highly recommend it. There's a couple of chapters.
I did order it today. It should be here tomorrow.
Good.
Thanks to the old Amazon Prime. It'll be here tomorrow. I'll have it read. Should have it read by Sunday night.
I think you'll like it. Sunday night. Wow. Fast reader there.
I do go through the book.
Well, there's a couple of chapters in there I think you would find really, really helpful, especially in coaching too, with some of your clients. I think it's something that we don't think about every day, but it certainly is one of those things where it's like you think you read that and you're like, oh man, you're so right.
Oh, I like those kind of books.
You're so right. So anyway, we're having her on next week, and she's going to be joining us for a brewski. So stay tuned. And with that said, I hope you all have a great weekend. You can find us over at persuasionbythepint.com. You can find us on all of your podcast platforms, wherever you download your podcast. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.